Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Future Work webinar series. We're so excited to have you join us here for this brand new series where we speak with the builders shaping the new work economy. In this first episode, we're diving into the global hiring trends and AI insights that are changing how employers and talent connect across borders. Whether you're an employer scaling your team, a talent professional building your career, but just curious about what's next in the world of work, we are thrilled you're here with us. Now, before we dive in, here's a quick look at how we structured today's session. So, we begin with the speakers' intros, followed by the employees' trends and talent trends, and finally, we'll be talking about the launch of our upcoming book that we will release in July 2025. And before you ask, we will be sharing all the slides and recording after the session, so you can revisit the conversation or share with someone who benefits from this. Now, how many of you know the case of Soham Parekh? You can reply with a thumbs up. Yes. And how many thumbs up do we have here?
I see a lot.
Yes. So the question is, did Soham Parekh kill remote work? Yes, Mr. Abhijit, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I think let's open it. I think I and Maimuna can answer this very pertinent question during our discussions. I think the participants can also type in their answers in the chat box. It will be interesting to see their perspectives.
All right. Now, we will be introducing our speakers for this webinar. Ms. Maimuna Rashid, who has been named Forbes 30 under 30 in 2024. She is the CEO of Pupilar, a talent platform and a thriving community of over 5,000 professionals. And next speaker we have is Mr. Abhijit Onkar, who is the CEO of Crelytics and 2X entrepreneur with ventures across India and the Bay Area, formerly at Dell, Deloitte, and an ISB alumnus. He is now leading Crelytics, which is a platform using AI to simplify global hiring. So let's not delay it any further. We'll start now the session with employer trends. So I will raise the first question to Ms. Maimuna. You're hiring for Pupilar in UAE. And what are the shifts that you are seeing in how companies approach remote hiring today?
Thank you so much, Hannah, for inviting me and for your kind introduction. I think what you're asking is very important from a perspective of the future of hiring and how it's evolving. What we are looking at is by 2030, we're expecting around 9 million jobs in the market to be replaced with remote jobs, which is essentially a combination of people doing the work as well as AI combining the efforts. Within our ecosystem, what we are looking at now is the reason why people do love to shift towards this remote strategy is because they believe that skills matter more in terms of getting the overall scheme of work done, but also convenience and how effective that policy can be for people across the organization for different types of tasks. So the factor why I'm actually mentioning this is because the shift we're noticing here initial years, it was very hard to actually convey the concept of skill-based hiring. And people used to rely heavily on CV-based metric of detecting talent. Now, with remote kind of an opportunity, I think we're very familiar with Fiverr, Upwork. These are freelance gig economy led platforms, right, where people are actually not aware of who they are really working with, but they get to know who they're working with through their skill sets. So we've noticed that the skill first approach is also becoming quite popular, more accepted now. And this particular element aligns very well with Pupilar because in Pupilar, we also believe that the next generation of talent need to be recognized based on skill sets and not based on a paper CV, which is or a summary of a person. So almost 95% of employers in the future are going to be now hiring based on skill sets, which also then aligns with the whole concept of remote hiring, where now you don't get to necessarily know the human being, but you would get to know through their skill sets.
Thanks, Ms. Maimuna, for that insight. That has been really helpful overview. Now let's build on to that. To Mr. Abhijit, what are some of the top pain points that you have seen CXOs face when hiring remote, and how is AI helping them?
So to answer your question, I think we are way past the question of whether remote work is viable, just to establish the baseline. In fact, for a growing number of companies, remote isn't the exception anymore, it's the baseline. And how do we know this? Based on our research and as well as the 120 plus companies that we service, over 70% of global CXOs now state that remote or hybrid hiring is their default strategy. Why so? Because on average, companies report cost savings of 35% or more per remote hire. That's a substantial number. And then there is also productivity gain upward of 23%. A fact that Maimuna also pointed out. But let's also go through the catch to answer your question more specifically. While remote work itself is mature, remote hiring is broken. And the biggest pain point that CXOs face is the slow and fragmented nature of the hiring loop. So, in today's world where execution speed matters, waiting 3 to 4 weeks to close a position is unacceptable. Then there is the discovery problem. Where do I find the remote candidate? I know like there are platforms like Pupilar, but beyond that, what is it? There is the filtering and vetting issue. How do I know the person is actually qualified? And then finally, closure, managing signatures and whatnot spread across multiple tools. So these are, I think, to answer your second part of the question, these are some of the areas where AI is fundamentally reshaping the hiring stack. So at Crelytics, we are building an end-to-end solution that removes the noise from the process. So there is an AI-powered remote job board where postings are assisted, approved, scored, even boosted based on quality by AI. Then there is LLM-powered candidate scoring and 360-degree insights. And pretty soon, there will be AI hiring agents which will handle the end-to-end hiring process and be your hiring co-pilot, equipped with tools to for contracts and e-signatures and whatnot. So to put simply, the future of remote hiring is fast, intelligent, and frictionless. I hope that answers your question, Hannah, to some extent.
Yes, definitely. Appreciate that insight, Abhijit. The Crelytics angle definitely do add how technology today is meeting real world hiring insights. Building on to that, to Ms. Maimuna, in your engagement with employers in the Pupilar community, how do you evaluate trust and credibility in remote hires? Are there new ways to validate skills?
Thank you for that question, Hannah. And I think I will go back to something fundamental. We at Pupilar actually have a approach of in-person matchmaking. So we currently don't do digital-based matchmaking. It's something that we actually took a shift after 2 years of digital matchmaking, simply because we realized that with this whole shift of AI, not only CVs were becoming AI driven, even your cover letter, your video, your every angle of what you're doing in a job application process now can be taken over by AI, correct? So we wouldn't really have that human element anymore. And one of the biggest thing is if you don't really connect with the person in the first stage of your hiring, you will always have to keep a check-in method. So your kickstart or your first impression really matters. Hence why we really encourage, bringing together the employer and the employee in our events where we actually let them connect, let them meet in person, create that first impression, and then it's up to them on how they want to take it forward, right? But beyond that, let's say it's a global client scenario. I can just give you some sort of insights on that. What we've seen is you could also do something that we do at Pupilar, but we call it the challenge-based hiring model. So you get a challenge, you get like a project to work on within a set deadline, and you expect the candidate to deliver. This allows you to actually see how they are working, what their skill sets are, how much time they take, and monitor them. Ask them to give a video of 2 days that they worked on that project. Ask them to also probably give you some sort of, feedback or ask questions or make them join for one day a Slack channel of your team. You get me? This will
Yeah.
enable you to assess how proactive they are as a human being. And then once you get them hired, I think a lot of it has to do with team culture. Like, how do you as an organization extend that culture over your remote team and how feel seen, heard, and valued they feel as a collective team altogether? This isn't something that is going to go away anytime soon. In fact, like I think Abhijit said, this space hasn't been tapped into, it hasn't been structured. The hiring element is super difficult. Retention is even more of a challenge. There hasn't been a solution that has taken over the world yet. So I think everybody's in the progress and process of discovery. So I would say we are still discovering retention side
Yes.
of it, because as an agent of match making that we do through community events, we're not responsible for retention yet. That isn't something we focus on. I hope that kind of gives you some direction of thought.
That is definitely a new angle because before we mentioned about AI, how it's helping the future of work, and then you mentioned the human element, which is still persisting and cannot be neglected over time. So that's a question on many employers' minds, especially with remote growing so fast, that how can we hire people without connecting with them in person? So that brings the end of employer trends section. Now, before we delve into the next trend session, let's bring our audience in. If you are an employee here today, what's your biggest hiring challenge right now? Please drop it in the chat box. Let's jump into the next section, which is talent trend section. Now, shifting the gears to talent side, because this new hiring model also demands a new kind of professional. Let's talk about what's expected and how candidates can stand out in this remote first world. I will ask the first question to Ms. Maimuna. What are the top three skills or traits that you look for in remote candidates today?
I think I have to be honest here, Anna. I think we don't actually do remote hiring for our own team. We used to do it, but then we realized that our team, because it's very young and it's very focused, and we also focus on events-led business, we don't do, remote hiring. However, if you ask me what are the top three skills that we would be looking at in the future, generally, overall, in terms of the next generation of talent, I think the number one would be the ability to analyze. The analytical thinking would be the number one. And in fact, I think World Economic Forum also has a research report in this that in this whole movement of AI, data analytics, yes, these are skill sets that definitely are going to make it to the top two list. But then one thing is you have so much information around you. How do you dissect them? How do you analyze them? How do you really have that skill set? That's one of the most important skill set we are looking at. And then the other element is creative thinking. I think as much as we are now dependent on ChatGPT as a tool or even AI as another other aspects of AI like Midjourney and so on, I think as much as automation is happening, our brain is also now wired to become too relaxed. So what we're looking at is a lot of the times candidates that are applying, they do like same messaging, same outcome, same prompt that we have seen as an outcome, which already makes us really fear for creativity that is fading out. And it's an alarming skill set that we need to reserve and retain because we, as human beings, that's what our biggest contribution is going to be, right? And then I think the third would be resilience, not to give up. because I know a lot of generation before us has not experienced AI as we are doing, as Gen Z and Alpha and Beta is going to. We are not supposed to give up. I think upskilling is going to really matter. And if that resilience is there in us, I think it's a great skill set to kickstart your career.
Thank you for that motivational answer. That's going to help a lot of job seekers listening in. To Mr.
You're
Abhijit.
welcome.
Yes, thank you. To Mr. Abhijit. Crelytics processes thousands of candidates. Are there any common mistakes or gaps that you notice in how remote talent present themselves?
Um, Absolutely, Hannah. And I love the answer that Maimuna had around the human factor missing with AI, as well as the need for creativity, need for resilience, and a lot of other skills that we take for granted, right? And beyond that, I would just like to add that talent is part of the problem, skills. Another major part which we notice is the presentation aspect, which Maimuna also touched upon. So across the thousands of candidates that come to the platform, one of the most common issues that we see is, and again, that is kind of flip side to creativity, is the inconsistency in how people tell their stories. As we know, resumes come in all shapes and formats, but very few are optimized for corporate applicant tracking systems or ATSs. And most companies today use some form of ATS or screening, but unfortunately, a beautiful resume isn't, if it isn't machine readable, then it's often invisible. So here's my advice to remote job seekers to while maintaining your originality, as Maimuna pointed out, you still work on building an ATS friendly resume, not just visually clean, but structured with your skills defined in clear keywords that match the job description to which you're applying to. Use Crelytics free AI resume insights. It's free, it gives you real time feedback on what recruiters are seeing or missing. And if you're still using LinkedIn as your main job application channel, that's fine. Just make sure that it reflects the same clarity, consistency. So, in short, what I would say, especially true for remote first employers, uh, is that you cut through the noise and also add some skill signals, like take some short assessments or skill badges that show what you do, or not just say what you have done. So I'll just summarize with that. The faster you break through the noise, I think the better you present yourself.
That's an important call out because sometimes small presentation gaps can create big hurdles. Thank you for spotlighting that. Now, the question goes to Ms. Maimuna. For youth or early stage professionals trying to break into remote work, what advice would you give? And also, in one line, what's your biggest hope or fear about the future of work?
Okay. For young people, I think they have least to worry, but something they need to keep in mind is we are like the graduates of today probably aren't prepared for the jobs of tomorrow. So that is the most important fear to keep in mind. That when we become, we enter the market of an AI-driven or remote-driven society, we have this tendency of starting to work alone and be on our own, just completely isolating ourselves from work culture, human as an element and team as an element, which then reflects into the kind of product and services we're also developing. So that lack of human-centered policies or that humanness that is going to be lost in the future is something that I think I'm really worried about. And as a leader, I myself am struggling on that. And the other part, which is the hope part of it, which you asked me, I think um, there's absolutely so much opportunity of good that we can do as young people in this nation. And as people who are creative, we think beyond boxes. We are also seeing a whole new shift towards a skill driven society. We'll be really blessed to actually experience a massive amount of justified opportunity that comes to you because of who you are on based on merit and not because of who you know. So they are heading towards a very brighter society, inshallah. Sorry, I couldn't keep it to one
Inshallah,
line.
we'll keep that. Sorry?
I couldn't keep it to one line, as you said, me too.
No, no, it's fine. Because I don't think that answer should have been in one line.
All right, thank you.
Now, this is my final last question to Mr. Abhijit. Any closing trends or insights that are relevant to job seekers in 2025?
All right. So I'd like to first go back to that interesting Soham Parekh slide that you projected, where I think
All
one
right.
candidate applied to 300 plus remote jobs. It's happening every single day. So I would like to answer that in one line saying Soham didn't really kill remote work, but he exposed what happens to systems and platforms which don't solve for the noise. And that's what I think we are also trying to fix here at Crelytics. Because from the talent side, candidates are stuck in this kind of an anxiety loop. If I don't apply to everything and if I don't carpet bomb, I'll miss out. And on the employer side, the CXOs and hiring managers are drowning in noise. 1,000 applicants per role, poorly matched, and so on. So what we are seeing is a classic breakdown of trust and signal on both sides.
Thank you, Mr. Abhijit, for pointing that out to how the recent case that popped up is bringing the fear in remote-led work. And that's a great note to wrap up our talent trend section. So before we close in on this webinar, we would be talking about which AI tool the attendees present here do you use most in your daily workflow? You can mention ChatGPT, Notion AI, Grammarly. Obviously, everyone would be using ChatGPT mostly, but let's hear it out. Which tool that you're most likely to use in your workflow? All right, we have the answers coming in as ChatGPT and Grammarly. I wouldn't be using Grammarly, but yeah. All right. And that brings us to the end of this short webinar. It was a quite insightful webinar. But before we go, we have this exciting update. This webinar is part of the research that we are working on for a book, which is focused on remote talent and AI-led work models. It's titled as Master Remote Work with AI. This book will be published in July 31st. And as a thank you to everyone here, all the registered attendees will get early access to the preview chapters and a special shout outs if your input here has contributed to the content. Now, we would love for this conversation to go beyond today's session. That's why we will be publishing it in YouTube and Instagram and all other social media platforms so that everyone is benefiting from this. And a big thank you again to Ms. Maimuna and Mr. Abhijit for such insightful and honest responses. And thank you to all of you here for giving your time because this webinar did bring some kind of insights. And stay tuned because we will be doing more of this in future. Until next time, take care and stay curious.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Hannah. Nice to meet you, Bajit.
Pleasure.
All the best for the book launch.
Thanks a lot, Maimuna. Look forward to interacting with you as well.
Inshallah.